Hello everyone, my name is Beth and this is my Flosstube channel, Busy Bee Stitches. I'm here today to talk about my 2024 plans, which are super exciting and in classic Beth fashion, require some explaining. So buckle in. This video hopefully will not be long, but I'm hoping it will make sense. I'm hoping that I can make some semblance of order out of the plans that I have made. All right, so I know that I've had some new folks join my channel, so I want to explain a little bit about what I did in 2023 so that you'll understand the choices that I'm making for 2024. So in 2023, my whip rotation was just like a random wheel, and each project when it was called had no deadline, but had a different stitch goal based on the year that I started it. So my 2019 projects had a 2,000 stitch goal. 2020 projects had a 1,500 stitch goal. 2021 was 1,000 stitches. 2022 was 500 stitches. And then for a little while there, I was adding in my new starts, and then they could be called in my whip rotation, and I would stitch 200 stitches on them. I even stopped adding those into my rotation after a while. So I did make it through all of my whips, which was very exciting because that did not happen in 2022. And what else do I want to say about that? Oh, I also had some focus whips per year. I had 2 focus whips per year per start year. And when those were called on the wheel, they were able to be called again. So everything else, like, it was a one and done on my whip wheel, and the focus ones could be called multiple times, which did happen a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit. So a couple of takeaways from that was that I really found that like fewer than 1,000 stitches and I was bummed to be putting the project away. So I don't really want to have any goals that are fewer than 1,000 stitches anymore. I did feel like more than 1,000 stitches was, depending on the project, kind of a slog. But for most of those, it was like a necessary slog. It's like, I really got to get through this project. But for my main goals, I really liked 1,000 stitches. 1,000 stitches was very comfy for me. What else did I learn? I really liked not having a deadline for my goals. I liked just like when I finish a goal, I pull the next one, and not having like super hard, like, have to finish this by the end of the month. Because my months are like, I don't know, sometimes sometimes things don't work out nicely, and being able to carry goals forward until I was able to finish them worked great. And some goals I even like would work on like a part of it, and then I would work on something different, and then I would pick it back up and work on that goal some more. But I just wasn't pulling another goal until I finished that one. So yeah, overall, I really like my rotation, but I really just didn't like having to put projects away with fewer than 1,000 stitches on them, and some of my older projects were like hard to get through on the higher goals. So with that being said, let's talk about my 2024 plans. So I keep looking off to my notes to remember all the things I want to tell you. So some context that if you're new to my channel you may not be familiar with. I categorize all of my whips by size, also by start year, but I have a size grouping for them, and I calculate that based on the square stitch dimensions. Bear with me, it's not so complicated as it sounds. I believe I got this from Stitch from Stash, maybe? There was like a Stitch from Stash Facebook group. And I think they taught me this. So I will take the width stitch count and the height stitch count. I will add them together and divide by 2. And that is just like squaring off the sides. And that'll tell me the square size. So a mini project is 50 stitches square or smaller. Small is 51 to 100. Medium is 101 to 150, so on and so forth. Here's the chart. So I will show you a much larger chart that is a breakdown by year and size, so you can sort of see like my distribution. And what you can see is that I have a lot of projects in the small and medium sizes. And a lot of those are getting kind of old. And so that gave me an idea. That is what sparked my idea for my whole plans for the year. So you can see the counts here, and I have been like slowly clearing out my older projects, but not as quickly as I would like. So what I've decided to do is assign due dates to my projects. I don't want this to sound scary because it's not. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I have to finish this project by February 2nd of 2026. No. But I am giving myself like goals for, I'd like to have this project finished by 2026 type of thing. So in classic Beth fashion, I had to make this complicated. I have assigned my due dates, my due years, based on the Fibonacci sequence. So, and I got this idea because we use Fibonacci for size complexity in like determining how complex pieces of work are in my real life job. And so I thought it would make sense and work well for my WIPs. I am not enough of a math nerd to be able to say that my like WIPs increasing in size, like it's not linear. It might be exponential, but I don't think it's I don't know. I'm not a math nerd enough to be able to say, but I do know that like the jump from like a medium project to a large project, for example, is a lot bigger than the jump from a mini project to a small project, if that makes sense. So I didn't want to do my due dates just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type of thing. So here's what I've decided. Is that a mini project, I'd like to finish it within 1 year. A small project, I'd like to finish it within 2 years. I'm skipping the double ones in the Fibonacci sequence, but beyond that, it's the Fibonacci sequence. So small is, I'd like to finish that in 2 years. A medium, I'd like to finish it in 3. And then it stops being linear after that. So a large, I'd like to finish that in 5. A huge, I'd like to finish it in 8. And a BAP, I'd like to finish it in 13. So if you're not familiar with the Fibonacci sequence, that sounds super arbitrary, but I promise it's not. And I'm sure there's the math nerd out there watching my video who's gonna tell me why it doesn't make sense that I've chosen Fibonacci for this particular application, but it makes sense to me. We're gonna try it out. We're gonna see how we feel about it. And I know like 13 years sounds insane to me. Like that sounds crazy to work on a project for 13 years, but if you look at like the pace that I work on some of the larger projects, like that's kind of reality. In fact, like that's like maybe kind of a tight deadline for some of these things. So, yeah, we're gonna try out these deadlines and see how that feels by the end of the year. If I feel like it makes sense or it doesn't make sense, it's an experiment. So I've looked at all of my whip start dates and assigned their due dates based on their size. And here's what I'm left with. I'll put a chart on the screen so you can look at it. But I have 4 categories. I have my red whips that are past due. They should have been finished already. I have my orange whips that will be due in 2024. Now, I'm not saying like by February 2nd. I have to finish them. I just mean at some point in 2024, I want them to be done. Then I have my yellow whips, which are like coming due kind of soon in the next couple of years. And then my green whips that long way off. And so you can see my my whip counts for each of those. I have 4 whips that are past due that are absolutely reasonable to finish this year. So those are like a big focus. And then the ones that are coming, that are like gonna be due this year, I know that they're not all possible to be finished. I know there are some of these that like really don't have that much progress on them, but some of them are absolutely possible. And the ones that aren't possible, I can at least put a ton of work in on them, and then they'll be red whips next year. If I like this and continue this idea moving forward, they would be red whips next year, and then they would get even more focus. So I'll get into the mechanics of that a little bit in a second. So for my rotation, I am gonna keep the like random spin on the wheel strategy. I really like that. I'm also gonna keep my no time limit on the goals, at least mostly. I'll get to that in a second, but mostly. So I'm gonna spin for a random whip. I'm gonna stitch on it until I reach the goal, and then I'll spin for the next one. For all of my whips that are going in that wheel, or wheels, there'll be more than one. All of my whips that are going in wheels are going to have a 1,000 stitch goal, regardless of when I started them, regardless of their due date, regardless of size. I just really liked the 1,000 stitch goal. I thought that was really comfy. Like I felt like it was manageable, but I felt really accomplished after putting in 1,000 stitches in. I was like not sick of it yet, but also ready to move on to the next thing. So I really want most of my goals to be 1,000 stitches. So that's what I'm gonna do for my rotation, for my main rotation. So I am gonna do 4 different wheels though. Instead of having all my whips in one wheel, I'm going to have a red wheel, an orange wheel, a yellow wheel, and a green wheel. And I'm gonna rotate through my wheels. Maybe by March I'll be like, what the hell was I thinking? I don't know. But for now it seems exciting to me. Hello everyone, this is Editing Beth. I'm gonna do a take 2 on my explanation of this rotation and try and explain it a little more clearly this time. So I'm gonna go through all of my red whips first, spinning the wheel, randomly picking one, stitching 1,000 stitches, and then spinning again until I get through all 4 of my red whips. And then I'm going to start my orange rotation, and I will stitch through all of my orange whips. And then I'm going to go back to red, and I'll stitch all of my red whips again. And then I will go to my yellow rotation. I'll stitch all through all of my yellow whips. And then I'll do orange again, and then I'll do red again. And finally, I'll stitch all of my green whips, and then yellow again, orange again, red again. Now, I'm kind of hoping that all my red projects are close enough that they don't need 4,000 stitches in them for a finish. But I have not counted, so I don't know for sure. I think at least some of them will be done in the first round. But yeah, so I'll be doing my rotation in rounds. It'll be red, then orange red, then yellow orange red, then green yellow orange red. And I don't even want to make plans for after I've gone through all those because it's not gonna happen. So there are some flaws in this plan that I would like to disclose to you because I'm aware of them and I want you to know that I'm aware of them so that you don't have to tell me about them because I know. The main flaw to me is that it will be nigh impossible to stitch on all of my whips this way. I really liked that I got to touch all my whips in 2023, and it bummed me out that I didn't get to stitch on all of my whips in 2022. And yet I'm doing it to myself again because I calculated that the worst case scenario, like if I didn't finish anything and I had all of my whips all the way through that entire like 4 rounds of wheels, that would be 91,000 stitches, stitching 1,000 stitches each on them. So that's like close to as many stitches as I stitched all year. And that doesn't even take into account my feature projects that I haven't even talked to you about yet. It doesn't take into account the sals that I'm gonna start. And it doesn't take into account the random other things that I'm gonna start or be called to stitch on for whatever random thing. It doesn't take into account Frogworks that's gonna take over my entire July. So getting through all my whips this way is just not gonna happen. And I just have to accept that if this is what I'm choosing to do. What it will mean though is clearing out and finishing some things. So it's a trade-off that I think is gonna be worth it in the long run, at least. Another flaw is that I have, I think 11 or 12 orange projects, and not all of those are close enough to a finish that I think it's reasonable that they'll get finished this year. And I think that's okay. I think like if they don't get finished, I think I talked about this already on my video, that if they don't get finished, that's okay. They'll just become red projects next year. And they will be so much closer to a finish than they were before. And finally, a flaw that I think is a huge flaw if I continued using this exact method every year. But I think for 1 year it's gonna be okay. So the issue is that my green projects, my projects that are very large or much newer, or both, are de-emphasized in this rotation method. That I won't even get to them till I've gone through all of my red projects or finished all of my red projects 3 times, my orange projects twice, and my yellow projects once. So, wait, that's not even right. Yes it is. Yes, it is. That was right. I was right the first time. Checking my notes to confirm. Yeah. So after I've gone through my red projects 3 times, my orange projects twice, and my yellow projects once, then I can even consider hitting my green projects 1 time. And definitely not more than once. So what that means is that over many years, my green projects would like become less and less likely to reach their finish deadline on time. And that's not what we want, right? We don't, like, I'm not trying to create a mad scramble on my large projects, even on that like ridiculous 13-year deadline. Like, I'm not trying to make it impossible to finish those ever. But I do think that like clearing out some of my stale whips will allow me to then like create more of like a what am I trying to say? A deliberate plan on some of those larger projects to like break them down a little bit more reasonably and make some of them focus projects, and tackle them more piecemeal than I'm going to this year. So those are the flaws that I wanted to talk about. They're just things that I'm going to keep an eye on how I'm feeling about them as I go through this experiment this year. So I've talked a little bit about feature projects. Now let me like explain to you what I'm gonna do with feature projects. I have 3 2019 whips, and of those 3, 2 of them are within 8,000 stitches of a finish. So I have Harry Potter Covers Collage, I have Rainbow Blackwork by Peppermint Purple, Harry Potter Covers Collage is Fox and Teacup, Rainbow Blackwork by Peppermint Purple, and Autumn Quakers by Rosewood Manor. Those are the 3 projects I have left from 2019, and they're all large or BAP. Large, huge, or BAP. They're all bigger than large. And 2 of them are orange projects. No. Rainbow Blackwork is an orange project, and Autumn Quakers is, I'm over it. I want it to be done. So both of those projects I would like to finish this year. And as a result of that, I think that I can create a nice rotation with these 2019 whips. So if I stitch 2,000 stitches per month on one 2019 project per month, then I will stitch each of those 3 projects 4 times for 8,000 stitches total on each project. That would clear out 2 out of the 3. That sounds so awesome. I talked a lot about Autumn Quakers, so I'm sure anyone who's been watching me for a little while knows, but Autumn Quakers is just like, I don't enjoy stitching on it. I really, really don't enjoy stitching on it. I think it's beautiful. I think I'm going to be happy to have it displayed in my house, but it's, of my whips, the project that I like stitching on the absolute least. And because it's my 3rd oldest project, I'm just like getting sick of having it in my whip pile, and I know that stitching on it for 2,000 stitches at a time is tough for me. It's like, it's kind of a slog. But if I do that 3 times this year, no, 4 times. If I do that 4 times this year, it'll be done. It'll be done. And then I get to frame it and put it on my wall, and every time I look at it, remember how hard I worked to finish it. So those are the only projects that I'm gonna actually like force myself to meet my goal within a certain amount of time. And I think 2,000 stitches in a month is absolutely doable. I usually stitch, you know, 5 to 10,000 stitches a month. What did I stitch in December? December was like kind of a light month because I didn't stitch a lot over Christmas week. I went like 5 days without stitching. And I almost broke 7,000 stitches. So I can stitch 2,000 stitches and then stitch other stuff easily for me. So that's the plan, is I'm gonna stitch 2,000 stitches on a 2019 whip, rotating those through each month. And then with the rest of the month, I'll work on my whip rotation. I'm sure I'm gonna have like random starts that I want to do. I'm sure I'm gonna pull a project for someone's birthday out of my whip pile that isn't called on the rotation. I'm sure, like, you know, things are gonna come up, things are gonna happen, things are gonna call to me. That's all gonna be okay. But I will do my best to work through my whip rotation with vigor and make my way through some of those projects, 1,000 stitches each as I go. Now, I do have a couple of other things mixed in there that I want to share with you. They're very loose plans, but we'll see. So in 2023, I said to myself that I was going to ban stitching on gifts for the whole year because I stitched on so many gifts in 2022. And I just really wanted to focus 2023 on the projects for me. And I did that, and I really loved that. But I'm back, ready to go, ready to stitch some gifts again. But I'm going to be very, what is the word I'm looking for? Discerning. That's the word. I'm gonna be very discerning about what gifts I choose to stitch. I'm not gonna stitch like 10 gifts in a year like I did in 2022. That was crazy pants. I'm not gonna do that. But I have one already planned and nothing else in mind. So maybe I'll just stitch one gift in the whole year. Probably not, but we'll see. Then, if you watched my December video, you got a little bit of a spoiler that I'm going to start the James Webb Space Telescope SAL by Climbing Goat Designs. I've already bought it, signed up, and I have fabric for it. It starts coming out at the end of January, and it comes out every month until the end of October. And each month is gonna have 2 sections in it. January has like 1 section and then all of the like section outlines. And then every month after that is 2 sections. So, and the sections are all full coverage. So with like clearly overcommitting myself with my whip rotation already, I know that like I'm not gonna be able to stay on top of this SAL. It's just not gonna happen. But I would like to like keep bringing it back throughout the year. Like I don't want to just work on it one time and then leave it for next year. Because it's absolutely gorgeous and I love it. And all year this past year, I've been watching people do the Hubble one and like feeling so close to buying it. I still might eventually, but I was like so loving watching people stitch on the Hubble one. And then when the James Webb one was announced, I was like, sign me up, yes, 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 yes. So since like 2 sections come out every month, maybe I'll like try to stitch on one of them and get like halfway through this year. I don't know, we'll see. But I'm not deluded. That will definitely be in my whip pile next year, for sure. And then the next sort of SAL that I'm doing is a bunch of my stitchy friends decided to all start hands-on design together for our New Year, New Start this year. And we all picked like different projects, and of course I picked a giant one because I'm doing the year of celebrations too. And so that one obviously has 12 parts. Each part is like a mini on my whip scale, but there's 12 of them, and I'm counting it as one whip, but I'm doing it on individual pieces. So that's already started because I started it on January 1st. But I don't really want to just like, you know, start it and then put it away for the whole year. I would, but I also know that it is not possible, again, for me to like finish each part within the month. I'm not going to try to force myself to do that. Especially because doing that would mean getting through fewer of my whip rotation goals. And I don't want to sacrifice that. So I'm thinking though that I'm gonna each month start that month's year of celebration square. And just like spend a few days on it, whatever I'm feeling. I'm not gonna like set rules for myself on this. And then maybe I can get halfway through each one, and then next year, each month, go back through and finish them. I don't know. That one, that one and the James Webb one, I'm just gonna sort of like see how I feel, see where it takes me, and enjoy it. So those are all my plans. That's it. We did it. I still have room on my memory card, and my battery didn't die. Yay! That will not be the case for my soon-to-come year-end review, stats, Excel spreadsheets, fun time, and maybe in the same video, maybe in a separate video, depending how it goes, whip parade. So all of that is coming. It is so dark outside all the time, so it's really hard to film. I'm filming with a crappy light right now, but I feel like I'd really like to film my whip parade in the daylight, so it might have to wait till this weekend to film it, and then I'm sure it'll take me a gazillion hours to edit. But I'd like to get this video out to you and my December Flosstube out to you, so that you can know what I'm up to, at least, coming up. So, yeah, that's what I got. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you in those upcoming videos. Bye, everyone.